As we speak, companies are having to make a decision, an invidious decision, between whether or not they defend German pensioners criticising politicians or they comply with the European Commission and with national laws. We know from COVID censorship which is the most likely route they take. Compliance is easier and cheaper, but it is not good for speech. Indeed, yesterday I was just informed by a senior lawyer for a major US company that the Germans are prosecuting a 14-year-old boy for a mild online post. They want the identity of another post outside Germany, and they've launched criminal proceedings against US employees of this company for refusing to pass over the identity information. That's the attitude we're dealing with. We've seen it from Thierry Breton, from others in the European Commission. They want this censorship power and they want it globally. The digital square is one of the great gifts from the United States to the world. It has been transformative for our political discussion. But the EU wants to make itself the sheriff of the square, and it's armed itself with powerful tools. And there are more to come, unfortunately, including the Democracy Shield. I agree with Ranking Member Raskin that it is sad when close allies and democracies do this kind of thing, and we must call them out for it. We must take a stand against this new censorship wave. Democracy requires free speech. I'm looking forward to our discussion and any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Price. The Right Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Farage, is recognised.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for inviting me here today. And it turns out, with news in the last 48 hours, to have been really rather timely. I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. It was delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. Because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades. We've kind of forgotten the Voltairean principles that we'll fight and defend to the death your right to say something that we fundamentally disagree with. That is the absolute foundation, if you think about it, of free speech, of democracy, of living in freedom. It's kind of why we fought 2 world wars at massive, massive cost to defend that very principle for ourselves and for many, many others around the country. And I first became worried about all this with cancel culture. You know, the idea that we can't have this speaker go to a university because some people might be offended by what he or she have to say. It is important to note that there is not a parent in the United Kingdom, and I would guess it's the same for America too, that is not concerned about content their children as minors can find on the internet. Not a single parent that is not concerned about this. But at the moment, we're not finding the right solutions. I do myself begin to think that hardware might be one of the solutions. That laptops, that handsets could be programmed so that many, many apps and many, many services simply aren't available from these devices. But what we've done is to go down the legislative route. And it's extraordinary that, you know, I come from the land of Magna Carta. I come from the land that gave us the Mother of Parliaments. And it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into. J.D. Vance did us all a service at the Munich Security Conference back in February this year. He really got this debate up and running, and it's a vital one. We've run on since then. The Online Safety Act was put in place by the last Conservative government. I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions. And we are now where we are. We have a couple of very famous cases. We, of course, have Lucy Connolly, who put out an intemperate tweet after the savage murder of those 3 beautiful young girls, she herself, a mother who had lost a child. It was intemperate, it was wrong, but she removed it 3.5 hours later, sentenced to 31 months in prison. She's now out, having served 40% of the time. I wanted to bring her with me today as living proof of what can go wrong. Sadly, the restrictions that have been put on her banned her from making the trip, which is a very, very great shame. And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like. It is a potentially big threat to tech bosses, to many, many others. This legislation we've got will damage trade between our countries, threaten free speech across the West because of the knock-on rollout effects of this legislation from us or from the European Union. So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, to say to you, don't allow, piece by piece, this to happen here in America. And you would be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favour if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, you've simply got this wrong. At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
Thank you, Mr. Well said. Thank you, Mr. Farage. Made a big announcement this week we're sorry to hear about, but we appreciate your service, and you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there is a clear and present danger to free speech in America, but it is not across the Atlantic Ocean. It is right here in Washington, sitting in the Oval Office. At a time when the greatest threat to the First Amendment rights of Americans resides in the White House, our Republican colleagues have brought us here today to talk about Europe. They've invited a fringe politician from the United Kingdom to attack the laws regulating certain conduct online in his country and the European Union, laws that are intended to combat disinformation by hostile foreign actors, hate speech, and other fraudulent or criminal conduct. They have sounded the alarms about these foreign laws, but when it comes to the Trump administration's suppression of speech in this country, Republicans are curiously and dangerously silent. There is virtually no corner of society that Donald Trump and his administration have left untouched by their effort to impose their radical views on the American people and to stamp out dissent. Since taking office, President Trump and members of his administration have used the powers of the executive branch in an attempt to silence their political opponents by attacking our core democratic institutions, such as academia, the legal profession, and journalism. These are moves straight out of the authoritarian playbook. For example, the Trump administration has taken aim at colleges and universities, trying to bend them to its will by withholding billions of dollars in scientific research funding, a short-sighted move that will set back innovation in this country by decades. And in some cases, including at my alma mater of Columbia, it has demanded onerous conditions that infringe on academic freedom. On these same college campuses, students are being kidnapped for writing op-eds, and others are being deported for participating in protests. The Trump administration has also targeted disfavored law firms that dare to challenge the president or to hold him accountable, or simply for hiring an attorney who clashed with Trump in the past. Some have sadly capitulated to its campaign of extortion. The president has even taken aim at the arts and humanities, launching a hostile takeover of the Kennedy Center and censoring exhibits at the Smithsonian Institution, attempting to whitewash American history and to stamp out free expression. He has also engaged in a dangerous campaign of harassment and intimidation of the media. For example, last October, he sued CBS for $10 billion for editing a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris in a way he didn't like. Although this suit was widely ridiculed by First Amendment attorneys who called it meritless and absurd, Paramount, the parent company of CBS News, was desperate to win approval from the Trump-controlled FCC for its proposed multi-billion-dollar merger and felt pressured to settle this baseless lawsuit. Ultimately, it paid $16 million to settle the suit, and just days later, the FCC approved the merger. What a coincidence. This followed ABC's settlement of a similarly baseless Trump lawsuit for $15 million because of corporate pressure. And now the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch face their own $10 billion lawsuit from Donald Trump over the Journal's reporting that shed new light on Trump's well-documented relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not aware of any president in the past suing media companies or newspapers or television stations for free expression they didn't like.
Mr. Price, has anything in the Digital Services Act changed in the last year?
No, sir.
Hasn't been amended, hasn't been changed at all?
No, sir.
So everything Mr. Breton wrote 1 year ago today, well, August 12, 2024, that's still in place, where he said to an American running an American company about an interview that was yet to happen, future happening interview, threatened this individual. None of that nothing in the law has changed that would change what actions this individual took.
Nothing in the law.
Just because Mr. Breton's gone doesn't mean Ms. Verkunen can't do the same darn thing, right?
Precisely.
Yeah, and that's the concern. Mr. Price, is the statement, we need to take back our country, is that statement hate speech?
We don't really know what hate speech is. It's so vague, and that's the problem with it. I wouldn't regard that as hate speech.
Well, you may not, but the EU regulators do, because they had a workshop on May 25th where this is part of our investigation, material we'd subpoenaed. They gave us this information, and they said it is hate speech. That's a concern, right?
Yes, sir.
And it could be made by an American and be termed hate speech, and there could be some ramifications for Americans' First Amendment liberties. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Price, what's a trusted flagger?
A trusted flagger is an NGO or a private organization that's recognized under the DSA, and if they identify or a complaint has been made...
Wait. Recognized by who?
Oh, the terms of the DSA. Oh, and the national regulators and the Commission as well.
Okay, and they do what? So they're recognized by the government. They're approved by the government.
Yes,
all right? And what do?
If they identify content that they regard as illegal content, the companies have to give priority to removing that content.
Oh, so people that the government approves tell companies what they can allow on their platform and what they can't, right?
That's correct, sir.
And the same people who approved these folks are the same people who conducted the workshop and said, we need to take back our country as hate speech. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, and that's the concern. And what happens if these trusted flaggers approved by the government, the same government that says we need to take back our country as hate speech? By the way, I think that statement is made probably more by Democrats right now than Republicans. I think the head of the Democrat National Committee made that statement like 3 months ago at a big Democrat rally or something they were having. So the same people who say that's hate speech approve the trusted flaggers, who then tell the platforms what they can and can't have on their platform. And if they don't agree with what the trusted flaggers say, there's civil penalties. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Both under national law and the DSA, investigations begin, and there's a whole process that can result in enforcement and then ultimately crippling fines for companies.
And those crippling fines, those civil penalties can be what, 5%, 10% of global revenue, depending on the Online Services Act or the DSA?
Under the DSA, 6%.
6%? Wow, that's a lot of money because these are big companies, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Farage, it's not just civil penalties, though. And this is where it gets really scary. Because my understanding is there's criminal penalties, and I think in 2023 in the United Kingdom, there were 12,183 arrests for offensive posts. 12,000 people arrested for things they posted online that some trusted flagger approved by the government, the same government that says what's being said at the Democrat National Committee, we need to take back our country, is hate speech. That's a scary scenario. Is that right?
Yeah, they're massive statistics, and I mean, some of it comes under non-crime hate incidents. So you've said something on social media, someone's taken objection, and you get the knock at the door from the police sort of warning you that if you do this again, something may happen. And this has now been broadened out. I mean, Mr. Price made the point, what is hate speech? How do you define hate speech? And that's the problem, isn't it, with all of these laws,
Yep.
that we finish up in a position where local police forces, etc., have to choose their own interpretations. I think, again, as I said to you earlier, the timing of this hearing today is perfect because the head of the Metropolitan Police, who arrested Graham Linehan at Heathrow Airport,
Yeah.
he's thrown the ball back now to the British Home Secretary and the government to say, please tell us, what is this law intended? What are we supposed as the police to do? So I think we're going to have a much more rapid debate about this. But my worry is it may get worse, if I may quickly.
Yep.
Because the Labour government now are intending to pass a law that has a definition of Islamophobia. They're intending to put that into law. And that effectively will mean that criticism of a religion, mocking of a religion, would become an offence. And that's totally against everything.
Well,
because, we've always given the Pope a hard
Yeah.
time. We've always given the Archbishop of Canterbury a hard time. So we're finishing up kind of with two-tier law and two-tier justice.
Well,
and that's very
I
concerning.
had one other question I'd like to get from maybe you and Mr. Price, if I could. Speaking of religion, tell me what performative prayer is. This is something we've seen and we've discovered in our investigative work. Maybe we'll start with Mr. Price and then go to Mr. Farage.
Yes, sir. We have a client at the moment who's been prosecuted or was arrested in Bristol for a Christian pastor preaching about the differences between Christianity and Islam. He was then assaulted by a group of people identifying as Islamic. The police arrived and they arrested him, not the people who assaulted him. This is the state of play in the United Kingdom in terms of free speech. And unfortunately, across Europe, I mean, I have a whole file of cases here where people have been arrested for criticisms of Islam, where they've been prosecuted. So things are getting pretty bad.
Yeah, that extends to abortion clinics, doesn't it? And the abortion debate in Britain and Europe is different to the abortion debate in America. It's in a different place. But we have seen people warned or arrested if they've been seen to be praying outside abortion clinics, even if they're doing it silently. Hence, it's performative in the sense they're doing that. You know, I'm afraid you now have to be a certain distance away from one of these clinics. But if other members of the public object and say that your praying there is causing them psychological harm, well, the police may intervene.
With that, I'll recognize the gentleman from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And firstly, I was pleased to join on the Codell. And it was a very fine, good Codell. I appreciate the chair, my friend and my classmate from 2006. One of the things I found most heartening about the Codell, we had a tour of Parliament. And along with us were two conservative members who were, I think they were either in the House of Lords, maybe one was in the Lords and one was in the House of Commons, but they talked to us about Magna Carta and about how it's the basis of our laws, and there was a copy there and copies here and there and whatever, but how precious the Magna Carta is. And they suggested to us that a legislator, this was in the House of Lords where he spoke, that a legislator is not somebody who votes. A legislator's job is not just to vote. A legislator's job is to stand up to an out-of-control executive. Very telling for British Parliament members to instruct us on what we should be doing, and I thank him for that. I'm a strong supporter of free speech and always have been, but I find this hearing a bit disingenuous because of the problems we have here in America. Free speech includes the speech of those with whom we disagree, people who say vile things, and in my case, I say I find racist and anti-Semitic and Islamophobic type speech is something I find foul, but it's protected by free speech and offensive speech as well. That does not mean that there aren't limitations, however, and speech can be harmful, dangerous, and infringe on other people's rights. It isn't a free-for-all, though. And the U.S. in our First Amendment does not have a monopoly on what constitutes free speech. There is speech protected by the First Amendment, like corporate political donations, which I think is misplaced and misapplied. And there are times when our legal system itself suppresses disfavored speech. I passed the Speech Act in the 111th Congress. I think Mr. Issa was my co-sponsor, and it dealt with the fact that Britain is a favored nation for defamation actions, and it's easy to get a defamation judgment there. We would not allow those judgments to be recognized here in our country under the Speech Act if the activities that took place did not conform to our laws on free speech. And I would think Mr. Farage could try to look at changing their laws on defamation and contour more to what we see in the First Amendment. And that might be good for the people in England. Two of my good friends, most revered friends, were from England, London, Christopher Hitchens and Sir Bill Browder. And they've written books, and they could be subject to such laws as well. But work on protecting your English authors. Who, from Shakespeare on, they've been pretty good. We used to be bipartisan in these efforts to look out for free speech, but President Trump has taken on free speech in ways that would never been thought about. And I think Mr. Lofgren brought some points to Professor Kaye. And it's not just laws, it's autocratic actions as well. President Trump, as Mr. Dalio said clearly, but so many other people have said it and felt it, is bringing us on the verge of an autocratic state. And his actions in trying to bring law firms to their knees, colleges to their knees, federal employees, students, et cetera, is anti-free speech, anti-opportunity, and fear for themselves and their futures if they speak out, even Congress people, could be subject in the future, I'm sure, with some of the ways we're seeing this Justice Department act, with questions about their speech. Our president has sued every broadcasting company almost, and they've gone after CNN, they've gone after NBC, and they pick some of these fringe people to pick on the Ukrainian president about his attire. It's bizarre what's going on in our country, and I'm concerned. They try to silence and shake down those who don't conform to whatever the president thinks. We need to understand that his review of the Smithsonian exhibits and other African American museum and saying there was too much emphasis on how bad slavery was. I don't know how you could find anything good about slavery, and Edwin Starr, who's a singer, would tell you slavery, like war, there's absolutely nothing good about it.
What went wrong in many ways is we forgot why we actually had those liberties and had those freedoms in the first place. We forgot that, as I mentioned, I touched on earlier, we forgot the huge sacrifices that were made by citizens alive at that time to defend those principles against tyranny and against dictatorship. We've kind of lost our way in understanding why we are as we are, and I think that has permeated through the education system, where I'm not sure we've been teaching good values. The slavery comment was made earlier. I completely understand there's nothing good about slavery, but take our country. We spent decades driving slavery off the high seas. So whilst we were perpetrators to begin with, we actually, in the end, drove it off the high seas. So we need to teach our kids a sense of balance about our history, about the sacrifice that's been made. That's my feeling.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Farage, welcome to the United States of America. This isn't your first time here, correct?
Correct.
You were here in 2024 in Milwaukee, weren't you?
I've been coming here since 1982 on a very regular basis. I work for American companies.
What
for many,
purpose
many
were
years.
you coming to Milwaukee for? Why did you come to Milwaukee?
I've been in Milwaukee many times. I think that particular
in
event
2024
was a
was
convention.
the convention, the Republican
I think
convention.
that's right. I think you're right.
The Trump convention,
I think you're right. Very good.
where Trump was coronated.
Well, he won, didn't he? I mean,
Well,
yes,
he had
that's
already
what
won.
happened,
We already knew who had won.
It's called
And it
political
was
parties.
his coronation, and you attended, and you also attended Trump rallies, correct?
I've attended lots of Trump rallies.
Make America Great Again rallies,
Yes.
many of them. And you
upbeat,
publicly,
optimistic, happy,
you-
wonderful, joyous
you
events.
publicly
yes.
endorsed his...
I thoroughly enjoyed them. I've even spoken of
You
them.
endorsed him for president, and you attended his election night watch party.
I did.
And you consider Trump to be your mentor, correct?
No.
He's not your mentor,
No.
but he
Sorry.
is somebody who you want the support of, and you have the support.
Yes, I do. I think he's a very, very brave man.
Because
And I
you
think
are
his view
getting
of the
ready to
world
run for Prime
is,
Minister of Great Britain, correct?
Oh, I've been trying for years, yeah.
And as it stands right now, you head up a party. How many seats in the Parliament are there?
651, if you include the Speaker, that is.
650.
Yes.
And how many are a part? How many seats does your party hold?
How many seats do the opinion polls say we're going to get next time? Is that your
No,
question?
I mean,
oh, I
the
see.
numbers don't lie. You only have 4 seats, right?
I'm afraid so, yes.
And so you are indeed the leader of a fringe party.
Oh, I'm a fringe, all right. Don't worry about that. Yes, absolutely. Everything I've ever done.
And as a fringe party leader seeking to run for Prime Minister of Great Britain, you need a lot of money in order to blow up like the MAGA movement has blown up.
What you need is a message of truth and a message of hope. And
Well, you need money also, right?
Money's helpful, but it's not the primary
And
thing
so
you
the
need.
first
no.
thing that
no, you're
came
wrong.
out of the chair's mouth this morning during his opening statement had to do with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And you're carrying water for Elon Musk today, aren't you?
From what I can see, Elon Musk is abusive about me virtually every single week. But it's a free country, so
I mean, but you
he's
never
entitled
stop
to do that.
trying to ingratiate yourself
Wrong.
with him.
Wrong.
Well, I mean, and
No, wrong.
you are familiar with the
No,
fact.
wrong. I have.
You are familiar with the
I have had a
fact,
public.
Mr. Farage,
I have had a
that
public fallout with Elon Musk.
that Donald Trump's campaign benefited to the
I-
extent of $250 million from
you wanna-
Elon Musk.
Well, I mean, how much?
You are familiar with that,
How much
correct?
how much did Mr. Zuckerberg give to the Democrats? I mean, this is what happens, and people are.
But he didn't give any money
On Musk.
to
Let me be clear.
to the
I have
Democrats.
had.
He was sitting behind
had-
Trump with the rest of the tech bros,
I am
and you are
going-
here today
I'm going to answer
to
your
impress
question.
all of those tech bros, including
going as
Elon
long as
Musk.
you
Isn't
want.
that correct?
I'm going to answer your question very, very honestly.
You need money from Elon Musk in order to get
I have.
elected Prime Minister of Great Britain. That's the bottom line.
We consider,
Isn't that correct?
We consider all day, as long as the chairman allows us. I don't mind. I had a very public falling out with Elon Musk. earlier
But you're
in the
still
year
trying to get some
over-
money from him, though.
over a
You're
political
still,
issue.
it's not about the
And
prior
I'm
disputes.
sorry,
you're
it was a
trying to
fundamental-
You're trying to ingratiate yourself with the tech bros by coming over here and
Can I get a
trying
cup-
to.
can I get a cup of coffee or something whilst
And
this
you're
goes on?
arguing.
We'll be here a long time.
What you're arguing is that the citizens of Great Britain should pay a tariff if these tech companies are not allowed to violate the laws of Great Britain.
No, I'm not. That was a falsehood put out by the British Prime Minister
You
today.
didn't say
at
in your
Prime Minister's
statement-
questions. I have never.
In your statement,
I have never suggested any
your
of the
statement,
kind.
you don't
My
call for
statement is very
tariffs
clear.
as tools to
My
force
statement is
Great
very
Britain's.
clear.
You-
My
you-
statement is very.
You are not
It
calling
might surprise
for,
you.
You are not
Mr.
calling
Johnson.
for
It might surprise you to know
tariffs and
that,
trade
that
sanctions.
trade. That trade, you may not know this, but trade between our countries is actually rather important. You are the biggest investor in our country,
what you've
and we're the
done-
biggest investor
what
in
you've
yours.
done is come over
Time of the
here.
gentleman from
And
Georgia has
friends-
expired,
No,
but the
what you-
gentleman
What you've
should be able
done,
to say
sir, is
some kind of
come here
response.
to the United
Regular
States
order,
to
Mr.
argue
Chairman.
The
that
time-
your
He's been
citizens
rude,
should
he's been
pay a
disgusting,
tariff.
he's been hilarious.
Hang on.
No.
The gentleman's time has expired. I feel like we should give Mr. Farage a chance to respond to one of the many questions he was not allowed to respond to. So we'll give you 30 seconds, Mr. Farage, and then we'll move on to our next one. Because I know Mr. Farage does have to leave in about an hour, so we want to get through as many members as we can.
Number one, I had a public fallout over a political issue with Elon Musk. I can't be bullied by anybody. I haven't changed my mind. Last time I looked, he was being spectacularly rude about me yesterday. That's life. If we believe in free speech, we live with it. What I have made very clear.
fixated on-
What I've
Hang on,
made.
hang on.
Sorry, no, this is my turn, I think.
Yeah, you got another
Thank you,
15
Mr.
seconds.
Chairman. What I've made perfectly clear in this paper is the situation we've got with successive pieces of legislation, including now the Online Safety Act, is a danger to trade between our countries. And allies and friends and trading partners have honest conversations with each other. I hope many American companies and politicians have honest conversations with the British government.
done it.
I've not suggested sanctions at all in any way.